There is a reason the mind works so hard. Constant thinking is not only a habit, it is also a shield. Underneath most mental noise, there is something simpler and more uncomfortable: emotion. Many lives are spent trying to avoid feeling certain things. Instead of sadness, there is analysis. Instead of fear, there is endless planning. Instead of shame, there is blame. Instead of loneliness, there is scrolling. Instead of uncertainty, there is constant asking for reassurance. Thought is used as armor against the nervous system's raw experience. The problem is that this armor becomes a cage. Thinking can be very convincing. It presents itself as wise, responsible, even spiritual. A long internal monologue can sound like deep reflection. But many of these inner speeches are not reflection. They are avoidance. The mind says, let's talk about this feeling, let's understand it, let's dissect it, because it is terrified of letting the body actually feel it. The more the feeling is avoided, the louder the mind must become to keep it buried. This is why overthinking often increases when there is a big emotional wave underneath. The mind believes it is doing something useful. In reality, it is walking in circles around the same closed door. There is a simple question that can expose this pattern. What is being refused right now at the level of feeling? Not intellectually, but physically. Under the story about the boss, the partner, the past, the future, which raw emotion is there? Fear of being rejected? Grief for something that ended? Anger about a boundary that was crossed? Embarrassment about a mistake? The ache of not being where the heart expected to be in life. The mind will try to answer with more explanation. That is not what is needed. The answer needs to come from the body. Feelings are not abstract labels. They are concrete sensations. Fear often tightens the stomach and chest. Sadness can make the throat thick and the eyes heavy. Shame burns in the face and neck. Anger hardens the jaw and fists. Loneliness sits like a weight behind the breastbone. The first act of courage is simple noticing. Where, exactly, is this being felt in the body right now? No poetry, no big narrative. Just location, texture, intensity. This is the place where most people run. The moment a strong sensation is found, the mind rushes in. Why is this here? When will it end? What does it mean? Who caused it? The protective reflex is understandable. It learned, probably early, that certain feelings were too much to handle alone. But the nervous system is not asking for a story. It is asking for presence. Feeling, not thinking, is the way emotional energy completes its cycle. Emotion, at its root, is energy in motion. It is not a permanent identity. It is a wave. When allowed to rise, peak and fall with awareness, it changes, shifts, dissolves. When trapped inside analysis, it becomes stagnant. The mind tries to freeze it into a concept. I am an anxious person. I am broken. I am not lovable. That frozen concept is much heavier than any temporary wave. Strange as it sounds, pain moves more freely when it is felt directly than when it is carried as a lifelong label. The practice here is not heroic. It is simple and exact. When a strong emotion is noticed, attention is invited to rest where it is felt. Breath is allowed to move slowly in and out, not to fix anything, but to keep the body from holding too tightly around the sensation. Names and stories are put down for a moment. Instead of fear or shame or grief, there is warmth, pressure, tightness, fluttering, heaviness. The mind will protest, wanting to jump in and make sense of everything. The art is to stay with the raw feeling for a little longer than usual, even if only for a few breaths. Something almost shocking tends to happen when this is done with sincerity. The sensation begins to change. It might spread out, then fade. It might shift from sharp to dull. Tears might come. A spontaneous breath might arrive that feels deeper than anything in days. Sometimes an image or memory rises and then passes. The important part is this: the body proves that it can hold and release the wave without dying. The story, "This feeling will swallow everything," is replaced by direct evidence. Feeling it is survivable. This shift, from talking about feelings to actually feeling them, changes the entire relationship with the mind. Many thoughts that sounded important were actually just distractions from the body. Once the body is allowed to speak, the mind no longer has to fill all the silence. There is less need to rehearse arguments that never happen, to predict disasters that never arrive, to replay scenes that cannot be changed. Presence with emotion makes space for inner quiet. There is another reason the head is such a popular hiding place: identity. Over years, certain thoughts have been repeated so often that they became a kind of name. Always the shy one. The one who messes up romantic relationships. Not good with money. Late to life. Bad at speaking. At first, these were just reactions to experiences. With rehearsal, they turned into solid roles. The mind loves roles. They give a sense of stability, even if they are painful. When attention starts leaving the head and dropping into the body, these roles are threatened. The ego begins to panic. If not the anxious one, then who? If not the failure, then what? The discomfort here is a sign of real change, not a sign that something is wrong. Identity built only from thoughts is fragile. Life pokes holes in it constantly. Identity rooted in living presence is harder to shake. Presence does not need a story to exist. This does not mean inventing a new fantasy story in which everything is perfect and special. It means seeing that old mental labels are not sacred truth. They are habits. Habits can be retrained. If "I am always this way" has been fed with attention for years, it will feel true. If, for a period, attention is withdrawn from those rehearsals and placed on lived experience, breath, action, choice, the spell can weaken. The nervous system discovers it can be afraid and still move, uncertain and still act, uncomfortable and still choose well. That lived discovery is more powerful than any affirmation. There is also a quieter, less obvious benefit to leaving the head. Responsibility becomes possible. As long as everything stays in thoughts, nothing has to be risked. Thinking creates the sensation of movement without any chance of public failure. Preparing, researching, waiting for the right moment can go on for years. The mind is clever. It will use logic and even spirituality to justify endless delay. Action, however small, is where truth shows itself. A practical filter can help here. Is this chain of thought leading toward a concrete action or only toward another thought? If it leads only to another thought, it is likely avoidance. In such moments, returning to the body, taking one small, grounded step, a message sent, a 5-minute practice, a draft written, a short walk taken, breaks the illusion of productivity that thinking alone creates. Over time, the system learns something profound. Fear tolerated in the body shrinks after action. Fear fed by thought multiplies without end. Relationships are another area where living in the head does deep damage. Entire films are produced internally about others based on very little data. A reply that takes longer than expected becomes proof of rejection. A neutral tone becomes evidence of disrespect. A tired face is read as disgust. Before a real conversation happens, there can already be days of imaginary conflict. Then behavior shifts, distance grows, defensiveness rises, coldness appears. The other person reacts to that coldness, and the inner story is proved correct. Stepping out of this loop requires a small, consistent discipline. Return to facts. What was actually said? What was actually done? What was visible, not imagined? Much of the pain in relationships comes not from what happened, but from what was added in the head. A present person deals with facts first, interpretation second. An anxious mind reverses this order. It lives primarily in assumptions. The less time spent living in assumptions, the less time spent suffering unnecessarily. This is not an invitation to become naive or ignore red flags. Some situations and people truly are unsafe. Presence helps here too. The body often registers danger before the mind finds words: sudden tightness, a sense of shrinking, a feeling of freezing. Listening to these signals, without instantly covering them in rationalizations, is part of this deeper responsibility. Feelings are not always diagnoses, but they are valuable information. Combining clear sensation with clear facts creates far better decisions than spinning endless what-ifs. Self-talk is another territory where thought can be either medicine or poison. Harshness toward the self is often framed as being realistic or pushing for growth. But studies and direct experience show that constant internal attack erodes motivation and confidence. Curiously, many would never speak to a friend the way they speak internally to themselves. The nervous system hears these insults as threats, tightening further, making change even harder. The point is not to replace every negative sentence with syrupy positivity. Pretending that everything is wonderful when it is not only adds another layer of dishonesty. A more grounded shift is possible, replacing insult with direction. Instead of useless, the question can be, what is the next small step? Instead of behind everyone, the instruction becomes start now. Instead of never good enough, there can be train for 10 minutes. Direction pulls attention out of vague self-hatred and into tangible action. Over days and weeks, each small action builds a quiet kind of confidence, the kind that comes from kept promises, not from perfect performance. All of this, feeling emotion, loosening identity, taking responsibility, cleaning up self-talk, becomes much easier when the relationship with thinking itself changes. The goal is not to stop all thoughts. The mind will always generate them. The skill is to no longer be ruled by them. That skill is built in tiny returns, from story to sensation, from fantasy to breath, from imaginary debate to real task, from assumption to fact. Meditation, in this sense, is less a lofty spiritual practice and more a basic hygiene routine. Just as teeth are brushed each day to clear physical residue, attention is given small chances throughout the day to come back to the present and rinse away accumulated mental residue. 10 conscious breaths before touching a phone, feeling the water on hands while washing them, listening to sounds on a walk without naming them. These are not trivial. They are small repetitions of stepping out of the inner noise room. Over time, without fireworks, a shift becomes noticeable. Reactions slow down. Old triggers have a little less grip. Not every message demands an immediate answer. Not every silence feels like rejection. When discomfort arises, there is more capacity to feel it before escaping into distraction. The mind is still there, but it is no longer the unquestioned ruler. It becomes a powerful assistant, turned on when needed, thanked when finished. The deeper peace here does not come from having a perfectly controlled life. Life will always hold surprises, some welcome, some not. The peace comes from trusting that whatever arises, the inner response can be trained. Instead of demanding that nothing ever go wrong, there is a quieter question. If something goes wrong, can it be met? With practice, the answer becomes more and more often yes, not because of external guarantees, but because of internal skill. In this way, not living in the head all the time is not a spiritual luxury. It is a form of liberation. It frees emotion to move, identity to soften, action to begin, relationships to clarify, self-talk to support rather than destroy. Most importantly, it allows life to be experienced directly, with all its textures, tastes, and colors, instead of only as a concept. If this perspective on the mind, emotion, and responsibility lands somewhere inside, that landing is already a small act of waking up. For more explorations on emotional healing, nervous system wisdom, and spiritual psychology in daily life, subscribing keeps these reflections within reach when old habits pull focus back into the head. Liking this video helps this message reach others trapped in their own mental armor. Sharing it with someone who lives mostly in thought may offer a gentler way forward. And if one specific area stood out, relationships, work, self-image, future, naming it in the comments as the place where the mind shouts the loudest can be the first clear step toward meeting that territory with presence instead of only with thought.